presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast, where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Hello and welcome to the Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp, where we just talk on the Rev.FM radio about cop stuff and try to relate it to biblical worldview. And with me is, I hear you back there, Gary.
Here I am, Tim Rupp.
So, Gary, here we are, man. You know, we're back in Idaho. We recorded the show a little bit early, but back in Idaho. Here we are, the 2nd of April already. Can you believe that, Gary?
It is crazy, Tim. It really is.
I think, you know, we're getting old, Gary. You know how old we're getting old?
How?
Because we talk about getting old all the time. And we talk about how time goes by.
Yes.
And that's all old people do.
Uh-huh.
So that's us.
So true.
Anyway, let's talk about something else, okay? So we've got an interesting show today. We're going to talk about two different articles, and they're both about mass shootings that were stopped. So
good stuff. This is good.
I'm glad we're talking. So we're going to talk about that, quick police work and that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, let's immediately go to our Officer Down Memorial page. And I've got City Marshal A.G. Hall, Round Rock Police Department, Texas. Round Rock is just outside of Austin, Texas. If you know where that's at. Round Rock Police Department, April 2nd, 1878. So back in the Wild West. Let's just find out what happened to City Marshal A.G. Hall. He was confronted by two brothers who were carrying a Winchester rifle at a local saloon. Now, I'm thinking this is a pretty big Winchester rifle if two brothers are carrying it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it was just one of them had it. But so here we go, Gary. This is a local saloon in Texas, and you just can't wear your sidearm. You got to carry your rifle in there with you.
Right.
They had the Winchester. When Marshal Hall ordered the two to relinquish the rifle, one of the men produced a concealed revolver. So they had their pistol with them, too. Marshal Hall drew his weapon and exchanged shots with the man. Marshal Hall was shot in the arm, which caused a serious injury. The shootout continued down the street, and one of the brothers was wounded. Both were eventually arrested and charged in connection with the incident. Marshal Hall's arm was so seriously injured, the arm had to be amputated. It was believed that he would recover from the surgery, but he died several days later. Wow.
Interesting story.
Yeah. The two brothers were brought before a judge for a trial several times. However, each time they were brought before the judge, witnesses failed to appear. Because of this, the judge eventually dismissed the case against the two. Wow. 26 years old, tour of duty was 1 year and 6 months. That's all we have on him.
Yeah.
Young man, 26. And witnesses don't show up, and a lot of times witnesses don't show up. Well, they're threatened not to show up. One of the reasons why they don't. So we don't know what happened there, but anyways, they got away with it. Well, put it this way, they got away with it this side of the grave.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
What do you have, Gary?
This is Detective Sergeant Nicholas Pepper, LaForge Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana. End of watch.
Another Louisiana officer. We had three last week.
That's right.
Because we had the two officers that were killed in the helicopter crash, and then the officer that was shot in New Orleans, and then another one from Louisiana.
It's crazy. So this is April 2nd, end of watch, 2023. So again, a few years ago, but. Early morning, Detective Sergeant Nick Pepper and some other deputies were assisting the Huma Police Department, who were attempting to stop a vehicle for a traffic violation. Officers and deputies pursued the vehicle until it stopped, And as officers issued commands to the subject, the man suddenly accelerated and intentionally drove into Sergeant Pepper's car. Sergeant Pepper was transported to the hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Subject, they did detain him. He was arrested and charged. Sergeant Pepper had served with the LaForge Parish Sheriff's Office for 15 and a half years and had served in law enforcement for 24. He had previously served with the Huma Police Department and the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, survived by his wife, 2 daughters, and a son. He was 44 years old, so just a young guy like you, Tim.
Hey, 44, and his tour was 24 years. He became an officer when he was 20 years old.
Yeah, wow.
So he served his whole adult life and was murdered.
And again,
and a half years.
And again in these parishes.
Yeah. I noticed you skipped the name of that regional hospital system.
Yeah.
I even wrote it out for you so you know how to pronounce it. Thibodeau.
Thibodeau. It's good they put
French.
that in there.
That is obviously French.
Yeah,
and,
right.
But that's one of the. There's a restaurant right down from where we stay in Arkansas, and it's called Thibodeau's.
I'll be darned.
That's the only reason why I know how to pronounce that.
That's good, Tim. Right?
Man, it's man, being in Louisiana is funny, man. It's just like almost like a foreign nation. We're trying to speak French all the time and everything, man. And Cajun French.
Cajun, yeah, right.
Anyways, but you talk about good food. Oh my, Philly gumbo.
Ooh, yeah. Louisiana's where we get our annual Thanksgiving turducken.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We order it from there. Yep. Pretty good stuff.
They've got some good food. They got some good food and friendly folks in Louisiana. I'll tell you that. we enjoy.
That's cool.
We enjoy our time down there when we're ministering down in Louisiana where the black trees grow.
Yeah. That was good. Well played.
Yeah, I did. Hey, so I said we're going to talk about a couple really good stories. Well, in one hand, they're good because they turned out well.
Yeah.
One came out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it says this. And this is from almost 2 months, month and a half ago, the middle of February. In a press release to the Milwaukee PD, they explained that upon arrival, the officers encountered an armed suspect and gave him orders to drop the gun. So officers received a call for a man with a rifle, and they get there. The suspect refused and fired shots at the officers. An officer returned fire, subsequently striking the suspect. A different officer was struck by the suspect's gunfire during the exchange. The suspect's semi-automatic rifle was recovered. The officer returned fire at the suspect, striking and killing him is a 37-year-old veteran with 8 years on the police force and has reportedly been placed on administrative duty, as is routine. The Oak Creek Police Department will lead the investigation with the Milwaukee area investigation team. Reporting from Andy No of the Post Millennial identified the shooter as Isaiah Walter Scott, 24 years old, noting that, quote, the incident has not been reported widely and local media censored the gunman's face. No reported right up until the time of the shooting, Scott used Facebook to post videos, including one where he urged his followers to stay woke. He also ranted about the importance of accepting the LGBTQ plus people in standing against Trump. Posting on X, he shared a video of the gunman stating that Stott was attempting to enact a mass shooting, adding there's a reason for the MSM to cover it up extensively. That's the local news media there. Up until the time of the shooting, Scott urged his followers to stay woke, and he also ranted in support of the trans issues. Wisconsin Right now confirms Scott's identity via Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office on Thursday. The outlet revealed Scott had recently posted videos espousing anti-Trump views and followers who stamped against Trump and stand for your country. So this guy was intent, far left guy against the president, and he wanted to do a mass shooting. Somebody saw him walking. Officers got there. They exchanged gunfire. He was shot and killed, and the mass shooting was averted. An officer was shot, but it's going to recover. So that's good news about that. So
it is.
I'm glad we didn't have to read about another mass shooting.
Me too.
In Milwaukee. So thank the Lord for that. Then this is another one, Gary, and this is the next day this one came out. And this incident actually took place just before Valentine's Day. That's significant. It says school shooting by trans-identifying suspect thwarted after FBI receives a tip about the plot. Mooresville, Indiana. Law enforcement authorities in the small suburb of Indianapolis community reported that a plot to conduct a Parkland-like school shooting on Valentine's Day was thwarted when the FBI was alerted to the scheme and contacted the Mooresville Metropolitan Police Department. In a statement, the FBI field office in Indianapolis said the feds swiftly coordinated with local authorities to investigate the scheme. Now, that's what we want to hear, Gary.
That's right.
We want exactly to hear right. The feds and the local officers working together to stop crime. Mm-hmm. It says here that a transgender high school student, Trinity Shockley, 18, a female who pretends to be a man, was charged by police Thursday with a count of conspiracy to commit murder and 2 felony counts of intimidation with the threat to commit terrorism, course document obtained by Fox News showed. Shockley goes by the name of Jamie Ardex. And it says the Valentine's Day is significant because it's the anniversary of the shooting. Remember that it happened in Parkland on February 14, 2018. So very interesting that this high school kid, well, 18-year-old high school adult actually, was going to do this copycat shooting 5 years later.
Right.
According to the police, the FBI received a tip that Shockley was planning on shooting and had access to an AR-15 while also ordering a ballistic vest. The tip said the suspect was infatuated with the Parkland shooter, Nicholas Cruz. According to Sandy Hook Promise. Now, Sandy Hook, you may remember that school.
Yes.
That's where it was the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where there were like 20 kids, 20 first graders were murdered in that shooting. And
horrible.
6 adults, and 6 adults were also murdered. But they have a tip line, I guess, or some kind of, a say something anonymous reporting system, and somebody used that reporting system. This is so critical. If and I want to speak to our listeners out there, if you hear about something, if one of your kids, your grandkids, or they see something on Facebook, and it looks like, man, that just doesn't look right, or maybe they're just straight up threatening, to shoot. Don't think it's just a joke.
Right.
And they're just kidding. It's a dumb joke. Report it to the police.
Mm-hmm.
You can call any police department anonymously and say, "Look, I don't want to give my name. I don't want to give." If you don't want to do that, and just give them the information and let them deal with it. Let officers investigate, because most of these shooters post stuff on social media before they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. And they actually have on this article, what I thought was interesting, and I'd like to read some of this, Gary, is they have the Shockley, they have some of her rants on this, and it's what she put on, it's either on X or Facebook, I can't recall, but it was on social media. And she says this, Dex, this is what Shockley wrote. These thoughts never seem to stop. You may believe that I am some edgelord. Now, I didn't know what edgelord was, Gary. Did you know what edgelord is?
No.
So I had to look it up. An edgelord, I put it there. An edgelord is someone who makes shocking, exaggerated, or dark statements for attention. It is generally on the internet.
Oh, okay.
So a new word that I learned, edgelord. So, anyways, so she's writing here, these thoughts seem to never stop. You may believe that I'm some edgelord, but in reality, I'm just a loser. She wrote this on December 16th, 2024. She goes on, I am grateful for my chance to live, but in reality, I am scared of living. Is it the government, you ask? No. It is the sad reality of living with pieces of blank. I hope whoever reads this takes acknowledgement and maybe uses it for your massacre. And then she puts a smiley face and end of quote. And so you see this, Gary, and it's like, first of all, on one hand, you feel sad. They're saying, well, I'm just a loser. I'm just, I'm scared of living. And without the hope of the gospel, this is where a lot of people are, Gary.
Yep.
They, most of us have pretty decent lives, all of us have relationship issues. It may be with parents, it may be with children, it may be with peers, people at work, people at school. But by and large, things are okay. But there are so many people, kids, that are struggling with relationships. People do not love them. They feel that they are not loved. But it is so important for especially our children to realize that they are loved.
Right.
And that God made them specific. The president even said this the other day at a speech about a month ago. He said, you're made by God the way you are, and you're made right. You're made rightly. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so good to affirm that changing your gender, trying to obtain money, living some kind of a fake life does not change things.
No.
Because in reality, what's broken in this world is sin. That's what's broke this world.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, the ravages of sin, of somebody else's sin, sometimes falls upon us.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these young kids get the short end of the stick of maybe their parents or their step parents or somebody. But it's so important for the young people and the older people to understand and realize that God does love them.
Yes.
And he loves them so much that he sacrificed his own son for their lives, so they can be redeemed back to him. And it's so assuring, Gary, as believers, to know that even when things aren't going good in life, and you feel like, boy, things just aren't going good, it's better off that I'm just not, nobody loves me, and it's better off if I'm not here.
Yep.
God loves you very much, enough to die for you and to redeem your soul. And he's gifted you in certain ways that nobody else is. Everybody's unique.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important. And anyways, it's sad to read some of this stuff.
Really is. That's what I think too.
It goes on here. It says, other interests show Shockley wanted to hurt people and said that people need to be killed or wiped away from humanity. He writes, she wrote this, quote, you all need to be burnt out, killed, wiped away from humanity. Right now, I want to pull out an AR-15.
Man.
This is so heartbreaking,
really is.
And to think that she very well could have followed through with this and killed several children, and adults or whatever, other people. So, it's so critical. Two things I guess we really want to take from this story is one is what I mentioned, is pay attention to what your kids are saying, what your grandkids are saying, pay attention when there's a change in behavior.
Yes.
Make sure you spend time talking with I don't know when there's a change in behavior. Get to know your kids better.
Yep.
Get to know your grandkids. Get to know your kids' friends.
Exactly.
And when you talk to your children, especially your junior high and high school kids, talk to them about their friends. Talk to them about the weird kid in class. Is there anybody in your class that's kind of a little bit different? Ask them that.
Mm-hmm.
And let them, what makes that person different? Why do you say they're different? Let them answer the question for you.
Right.
And that may be something that you just need to maybe make a phone call to the school, and you don't want to be reporting and telling on people, but you want to make sure that your child is safe and the other children are safe. And if somebody needs help, that they get the help they need. So pay attention to your children. Pay attention to social media. Have your children have an open Discord with your children. If you allow your children on social media, then monitor what they're saying and what they're doing, and encourage them to let you know if they see something that's unusual. And so that's so important. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and most important is there is hope. There's hope with Christ. And so that's very important to let the children know and to let others know that we're not alone, that God loves you and he sent his son to die for you, and you can go to heaven. Put your faith and trust in Christ alone. And does that mean your life's going to automatically be a bed of roses? No, it doesn't mean that at all.
No.
That's the Bible doesn't say that. No. But it gives us hope, and it gives us the assurance that we are God's children, and we can look forward to life beyond this life that's really going to be great.
Yes.
And Gary, we're out of time again, my brother.
We're out of time again so fast.
Yes, we are. So, hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want to address on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email questions, suggestions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. Thought from the good book today. Deceit is in the heart of those who devise evil, but those who plan peace have joy. Thank you for joining us and helping to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.